loud and clear.
Even if you are in Gauteng.
Good news travel fast.
Yeah. Oh, there. Yeah, okay. Oh, all of you are there. So no one is in the auditorium. Let me inform the conference organizers. Thank you very much, Minister and your team. Thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon. We are here on the deliberations of Vote 8, Mobility in the schedule of the Western Cape Appropriation Bill to 2026. So we will allow the department to do the presentation, and then we ask questions, and then we adopt. Nama Pension Bombo is chairing it. Over to you, colleagues, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Leon van Wyk, a member of this committee. So good afternoon to you, to Minister, to HOD, and to the team.
Good afternoon, Chair, the MEC, and the officials. My name is Benson Rensu, the member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair, Derek Basils, and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brett Heron, a member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister, officials, and colleagues. My name is Noko Masipa. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
And to the department, Minister, over to you.
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to the colleagues. I'm Isaac Sileku, Minister of Mobility in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, Minister, members, Deirdre Ribbenau, Acting Head of Department.
Good afternoon all. This is Corinne Gallant, Deputy Director Freight in the Mobility Department.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and committee members. Kenneth Boyson here, Director, Strategic Management.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Christian Kriegler, Deputy Director, Management Support Services, GMT.
Good morning, everyone. Byron Laho, Acting Media Liaison Officer for Minister Saleko.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, Minister, colleagues. Maxine Bezuidenaar, Chief Director, Traffic Management.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members, Minister, colleagues. I'm Rian Wiggle, CFO.
Afternoon, Chairperson, members, Minister and colleagues. Melvin Arendse, Land Transport Safety Management.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Mario Brown, Policy Department of Mobility.
Good afternoon all. Viola Tunjalo, Head of Ministry.
Chairperson, there are some members online. If they can go by alphabetical order with introductions through you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members, Minister, HOD and colleagues. Bianca Hendricks, GMT Fleet Finance.
Good day, members. Hamza Martin, Transport Systems, Department of Mobility. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Brian Gabecha, standing in for Mr. Bambo.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Donald Lekay, Traffic Training and Development, Department of Mobility.
Good afternoon, Chair and members, Minister, and Pakama Mdita in the Strategic Unit, Mobility. Thank you.
Good day, Chair, members, Minister, and colleagues. Ricardo Collins, Director responsible for land transport contracts.
Good afternoon, Chair, Minister, and members. Shobha Moodley, Supply Chain Management.
Good afternoon, Chair, members, Minister. Mark Skrikker. I'm with the Western Cape PRE.
Good afternoon, Chair, Minister and members. I am Tina Lee Singh, Acting Director, Operational Management Support, WCMD.
It's
Good
quiet
afternoon,
now.
Chair, and good
Yeah.
afternoon, Chair, Minister, members. Megan Isaacs from the Office of the HOD.
Good afternoon, Chair, Minister, members, colleagues. Willie van der Merwe, Director, Road Safety Management.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Yumna Kiwala Sali, Land Transport Integration and Oversight. Thank you.
I think,
Sue.
Chair, that's the whole team. My apologies for that. Everybody has introduced themselves. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Members, we are on 339 up to 381 in the budget book. The department will guide us in terms of how we're going to do the presentation. Thank you, Ms. Adams, for being here for the support forms. Over to you, Minister.
No,
And
Chair,
we-
thank you.
Again, we want to just also to thank you because you are at a national transport conference in Midrand. So we just want to acknowledge and understand that you had to be out of the conference for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that. And once again, let me greet the honorable members and also just share a few opening remarks, and then I will allow the CFO to share the graphics so that we can engage on the budget. Chair, firstly, I need to start with the good news. That has been one of the issues that has been raised by the members of the Standing Committee on several occasions whenever we appear before them. And it's the issue of the appointment of senior management within the Department of Mobility. But I will start with the good ones and give the bad one at the end. I need to share with the committee that I have just recently appointed our CFO, who is permanent now, who was acting, but we come to appoint him on a permanent basis. And just last week in Cabinet, I've informed Cabinet of the intent to appoint a Chief Director for Government Motor Transport. So if he agrees to the terms and conditions, then we will be able to fill that position as well. And on the side of the Chief Director, Traffic Management, we have appointed her in last year, and she's been having a very difficult time trying to bring down our fatalities in this province. And that's just to show the indication that we do actually listen and to advise, and when there are concerns from the side of the Standing Committee. And on the latter part, there is also positions that has been interviews held, and people are just waiting to go for their test, and then we'll appoint some of the directors. So that's something that I've said the department must run with. We are serious of making sure that when positions are budgeted for, we need to appoint them. And then on the third part, Chair, is the fact that I have to announce today, with a heavy heart, of course, that the HOD, which was appointed last year, August, has asked for early retirement, and I have agreed to that, and she will be leaving mobility at the end of the month, and then I will be re-advertising again for an HOD. And those are the good news from the side of mobility. And in terms of the budget, Chair, we have to say whenever we go through MTEG 1 or whether it's 2, we are always competing with other departments for the little money that is available. We all know that we have been confronted with the foot and mouth disease, and there had to be some adjustment from the government of the Western Cape to try and save those livelihoods. And we also know from the side of National, there's also some of the grants, your P-Talks and your GIPTON grants. There has not been any increases, but only reduction in terms of those grants. But however, we as the Department of Mobility, we are grateful to the fact that we have not seen any decreases from the side of PT in terms of our own allocation, so which is grateful. Chair, this budget represents an agile and responsive budget to the needs of the economy, specifically for the people of the Western Cape, which are the most vulnerable, with a distinct focus on integrated transport, freight and logistic network, road safety, technology and innovation. In addition to funding received for the 26-27 financial year, one of the positives is that during the last financial year, we did not have an intake for traffic cadets. We are grateful this year that there will be an intake, so we'll have more people, boots on the ground from the side of traffic cadets. And also on the side of our safety ambassadors program, they will continue with that because we will be also receiving a national grant in terms of the EPWP. And Chair, we've also focused in terms of our freight and logistics. We had undertaken a study from linking the Overberg to the Port of Cape Town. We've just recently released the first outcomes of the study, and which was not what we're looking for because some of the industry players did not give us the numbers that we're looking for. So we are going to continue with that because today, again, the president raised it again, saying that 69% of our goods and services in our country is actually on our roads, which causes accidents, and then it also dictates to us to spend more money on road maintenance. So the work that we need to do in making sure that we move most of the goods and services and commodities that are currently on road to rail, it's something that we are grateful that the president is also saying that we need to put more effort and emphasis on that. And will be embarking on those efforts and those projects going forward. And the other one, Chair, in terms of the job seekers voucher, it is a very great initiative on a program, making sure that those that are unemployed who want to go and look for jobs, they are able to go there without having to spend any money. And we are grateful that there was an allocation given to us so that we are able to, in Landuga, to take it to George and also try to partner with PRASA in making sure that more and more unemployed people in our province are able to go and look for jobs, go and submit those CVs so that ultimately when they get that interview, the only thing that they have to worry about is to ace that interview instead of worrying about the transport cost, which is my personal idea that one day I would want to see that public transport is free for the most vulnerable in our province. And that's something that we would want to have going forward. And also, Chair, we are also grateful that the work that has been done by PRASA in terms of making sure the recovery of the railway lines that has been, in non-existent or dormant for the few years has been up and coming. We've just went to Captain's Club. We have seen the work that has been done there. I was personally on the train. The people are excited about what is happening. The trains are coming back. And that allows us an opportunity to work with PRASA, specifically in trying how can we integrate the different modes of transport, making sure that all different modes of transport, including our train, which is rail, being the backbone of public transport, are able to coexist instead of having destructive competition. So they also shared with us a piece of land that they are willing to make available, making sure that all modes of transport are able to park and leave people there and then get onto the train, which is something that we are very grateful for. And let's talk to the minibus taxi, which is transporting the majority of our people, specifically in the Western Cape and in the country, and which was also shared by the president today, that how the taxi industry came to existence, we sometimes tend to forget, and we only look at the bad side of the industry. And that's something that actually triggered ourselves as a department to say we need to continue doing the efforts that we have employed in the last few years, making sure that we partner with the industry, we capacitate the leaders of the industry so that we are able to see an industry that is violent free, an industry where, you know, lives of people are not compromised, an industry that can call itself, you know, formalized or professionalized, and that is able to make the money and also able to bring dignity to the people that are actually in the industry, all role players within the minibus taxi industry. So that is a fight that we are going to fight, making sure that we do actually save the industry from people that are trying to taint what is currently taking place within our space. And we have seen the torching of minibus taxis, and we are grateful to hear that the first minibus taxis that were torched last year, there is one person that has been apprehended, and we will follow that case to see whether there is any success in that regard. And also just on the MBT is that I will be one of the panelists tomorrow when we talk about the reform and the professionalization of the minibus taxi industry. I will be giving my views in terms of what is it that we have been doing as the Western Cape and what is it that we will be doing going forward. So I'm grateful to have been given that opportunity to be one of the speakers tomorrow during this particular conference. And also, Chair, we will never, you know, do anything without innovation and tech. And you know, it was said during our SOPA that we will be acquiring 2 scanners, you know, in helping us in fighting illegal things and people moving within our province, and also I also believe that it will help us with our weighing at our weigh bridges, because currently there's also congestion whenever some of the trucks needs to weigh and they were not supposed to weigh. Hopefully with the acquisition of these 2 scanners, we will be able to deal with those issues so that we are able to take mobility to the next level. Yeah, I think, Chair, that's all from my side. And also just, yeah, lastly, you would all know that last week we had an operation together with EMS, where we actually use drones to help us fight, and also in terms of law enforcement. We are currently using drones together with the Department of Health and Wellness. So we will be using drones in most of our hotspot areas to help us, you know, detect where there are congestion issues, where there are people who has illegal operating licenses, and where there is also people that are trying to run away from us when we are actually having these roadblocks, to make sure that people are able to comply, you know, with our rules and regulation in this province. With those few words, Chair, thank you very much once again for the work that you as a chair does, and the committee for always, speaking right and straight to us where we are not doing right. We are able to advise us, and then we take that advice, we are able to implement. And I can say that we have demonstrated that we do listen to the committee whenever there are issues of concern, and then we address it. With those few words, Chair, once again, thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, sorry. Thank you very much. With the department gonna flag the graphic, or are we using the book?
Yeah, they're gonna flight it, Chair. The CFO can flight it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. But the members can also ask also from the book as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Marian Wiggles. I'll be going through the infographics that we submitted. The total departmental budget is 3.52 billion for 26-27. And basically that analysis per program is also detailed. So for program 1, administration, the total allocation is 151 million of the 3.52 billion. That equates to approximately 4% of the total budget. And the tables for program 1 can be seen on table 9.1 on the e-pre document that was circulated as well. So, Chairperson, on the comparative, we've also got 25-26 financial year, more specifically at the adjustments budgets, and the funding that we received. During the adjustments estimates, we received 141.6 million. for the entire vote. And that also has an impact on basically the movement of the numbers between the two different years. So if we take administration, the total adjusted estimate was 134 million, and that increased by 17 million to 26-27. And the main reasons for that is there were some applications which we received for the program, 5 applications on the early retirement and voluntary exit plans, as the Minister has alluded to, and that total amount equates to 2.7 million. Then we've also got Microsoft licenses and business information architecture and adaptive strategy frameworks, and the total amount that we would like to spend on those initiatives is just over 10 million. So that's the main reason for that movement of approximately 17 million. Moving over to Program 2 on transport operations. This can be found on table 9.2 on the document, and that equates to 58% or 2.03 billion of the total allocation for our vote. And if we take that, the total movement from 2.01 billion to 2.03 billion is 22 million rand. And we did receive additional funding for 26-27 over and above the baseline. And the next slide speaks to those amounts. But just for this program, 50 million for the George Integrated Public Transport Network, and also 1.8 million for the Job Seeker Travel Voucher initiative. Then on transport regulation, Program 3, that's got a total allocation of 696 million, which equates to approximately 20% of the total budget. Table 9.3 speaks to that. So the movement from 661 million to 696 million is 35 million. And the main reasons for that movement is the increase in the motor vehicle license agency fees, which we have a principal agent relationship with the local authorities. So that increase was 26.1 million. And basically that's due to 2 main reasons. We are anticipating to increase the motor vehicle license fees by 3% from the 1st of July 2026, and also the natural increase in the motor vehicle licenses that we see the revenue generated in the province. The balance of that, 5.5 million, is also for early retirement and voluntary exit packages that we would pay. And the total number of staff that for Program 3, that's within those 2 exit packages, is 16 staff that we would exit at the end of March. Then Program 4 on traffic management, this is 642 million in total, and that equates to approximately 18% of the total votes budget, and that can be found in table 9.4. So the movement from 558 million to 642 million, that's a significant increase of 84 million. And as the Minister has alluded to, that's the diagnostics is machines that we are planning on buying, 2 diagnostics machines. It's 80 million. And then we've also allocated funds for early retirement and voluntary exit packages for 18 staff members. Then on the economic classification, so current payments, that's 1.73 billion. Cost of employment, 672 million. And then goods and services, 1.062 billion in total. Then transfers and subsidies, the majority of this amount of 1.63 billion is the PTOG grant that we've got. That's 1.33 billion in total. Then we've also got transfers to the municipalities of 284 million. And then also households, 14 million. But that households that we alluded to earlier is basically the voluntary exit packages and the early retirement packages of 14 million in total. Then payment for capital assets, there's an increase of 104 million to the 158 million. And again, the majority of that movement is the 80 million in capital that we are anticipating on spending on the diagnostics scanners. Chairperson, the second slide basically indicates the 172 million that we received over and above the baseline for 26-27. So on Egyptian, 50 million, that's going to be spent in program 2. Job seeker travel voucher, 1.8 million, also in program 2. The 2 diagnostic scanners, program 4, 80 million. And then the motor vehicle agency fees, program 3, on transport regulation, 26.1 million. And then the early retirement and voluntary exit program to settle accounts of 39 staff members. Then the third slide is government motor transport, which is a trading entity. Now, the numbers that you would see are differently presented because the entity reports on accrual accounting rather than the department that reports on modified cash. So the numbers that you would see, for example, the vehicle replacements, 1.34 billion right at the bottom, and then the current year, 742 million. I'll get to that explanation very shortly. Then the total allocation of 1.75 billion for 26-27. The majority of that is on the revenue side. We'll get to the expenditure soon. 992 million. That 992 million consists of daily tariffs that we charge for the fleet allocations and rentals, 63 million for daily tariffs. 411 million for kilometer tariffs, and then interest earned on finance lease receivables, 518 million. Then other income, the 2 main line items included in this is
When dead, or is it only from my side that is quiet?
No, Chair, we
No,
can't
we've
hear
lost
anything.
signal.
Yeah, azim vanadi ngapha.
Okay, are you presenting from the same house, same room where everyone is? There's okay, the room, they are all in Brandon's one.
Chairperson, sorry, I've notified the CFO. Perhaps they've just lost connectivity. I've sent him a message. Thank you.
that's still on.
Can you hear us, Chair?
No, we can hear you, but we can't hear the CFO.
Oh, Chairperson, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'll continue. So on the other income, the remainder of that balance of 42 million is the profit on disposal of vehicles that we would obtain during the auction processes. Then interest earned, that amount of 118 million is the interest earned on the cash and cash equivalents, which GMT holds. And the decrease of that 3 million is due to the decreases in the interest rates as announced by the Reserve Bank. Then services in kind, this is an accounting entry. And the decrease of 17 million to 12 million is because services in kind is the buildings and sites and properties which GMT occupies, which is leased by the Department of Infrastructure. So this is an accounting entry that we pass according to GRAP 23, which deals with revenue from non-exchange transactions. And the decrease of 5 million is because GMT started to pay for one of the buildings that's located in Voortrekker Road in Bellville. Then the funds from own resources, you would notice that that's 584 million. Chairperson, the vehicles are allocated due to in certain life cycles. So basically, we replace vehicles on an annual basis, but those vehicle life cycles typically run from 4 years, 5 years, and even beyond that. So what we are saying, due to all the revenue that we collect on top, we are allocating 584 million from the own funds that we've already collected in the past for that replacement cycle. Then moving over to the expenditure, this can be found on table 9.5 of the budget. So the main line items over here is operations, so 707 million. The main line items included in that one is the fleet maintenance and running costs, which would typically be your fuel bill for the year. So the total for all those items is 707 million. Also considering that the entity manages about 6,800 vehicles, so it's a significant fuel bill. Then on the personnel expenditure, 80 million, that is to basically fund the cost of employment of the full staff establishment of 192 at GMT. Then administrative expenditure, 60 million. Operating leases would typically be the office equipment that we renting, the printers, etc., but also the trackers fitted into the vehicles. And then the item right at the bottom on vehicle replacement, 742 million that we are planning to incur during 26-27, and we are anticipating to buy 1,085 units, all vehicles with its converted aspects attached to that. Chairperson, right at the bottom, the matter about accrual accounting, which I alluded to previously. So vehicle replacements decreased from 1.34 billion to 742 million. And the reason for that is there were open purchase orders during the 24-25 financial year at the end of March. And basically those open purchase orders then roll over into 25-26 financial year. So the majority of that is for vehicles, 595 million, and then also 53 million for vehicle maintenance plans, which we classify also as a capital item. Just for the members' purpose, if we look at that table on in table 9.5.1, there's an increase of 18.8% on accidents and impairment losses. That total amount now is 5 million. And that's because there's a new accounting standard which became effective, GRAP 104, which deals with financial instruments, and we had to cater for the expected credit losses of 770,000 in the new year due to the requirements of that specific accounting standard. So if you remove that 770,000, then you would basically get to the baseline of what we previously catered for. Chairperson, then the last slide. We just binded these slides because the slide was sent through separately. This is on the APP and more specifically part C of the APP, measuring our performance. So basically we've got an analysis of the 4 programs within the vote. And this is just the outputs to assist the committee, and the specific details can be found in part C of the APP. So it's not meant to be the entire indicator list, but just as a bit of additional information for part C. Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other additions from the department? If not, members, over to members for the questions. Again, you can also ask from the book if you want to, not necessarily from this, from the graphic. Member Nwensu, Member Heron, I see your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the MEC and the department for the presentation. Firstly, I think we need to appreciate the fact that at least the department was able to get about 3.5 billion. And our responsibility is to ensure that that budget is properly allocated in the best interest of our people. And also, I think it would be important for me to appreciate some milestone made in respect to the filling of vacancies at the senior level, because this is an issue which some of us have been raising very sharply, since the start of the 7th administration. We were happy because sometime last year we called you to come and present this particular issue, and at a joint standing committee with SCOPA, this question was presented by officials.
What now? You're going to come back now?
Okay. This is how we work in this committee. Okay. Now, but there is an issue which the MEC just raised, which where we stand, it cannot be left unchallenged. And that relates to the reported sudden departure of the recently appointed Western Cape Mobility HOD. We are here, MEC. Now that we are here, we believe that this claim that she retired is simply not true. And the committee and the people of the Western Cape, I think, deserve the truth, nothing less but the truth. What has actually happened? Because when we were here at the last standing committee meeting, you reported that she's sick, she's not well. And today you are saying she's taking early retirement. Now, we are deeply interested to understand that. If you are unable to take us to confidence relating to this particular question, the committee and the ANC must say, we're going to call for an investigation regarding this matter to establish whether there is a methane gas in the department or not. So that's the issue one which we wanted to deal with. On the substance, Chair, also of the report, if you permit, page 341, aligning departmental budgets to achieve government prescribed outcomes. What one see here is nothing but description of the crisis, which talk to the issue of the increase in population of by 18%, for instance, and therefore the need for transport, reliance on minibus taxi industry, the subsidy question for the bus service. The question then arises, where is the plan to address all these described problems? It's not enough to lament and describe them without given the resources, the budget you have, right? To what extent will that budget be perhaps deployed to these problems, which you also agree, and not for the first time? And also, given the dependence on minibus taxi industry, where is the operating subsidy framework for this sector of our economy? And what support exists for the formalization of the industry? I mean, of the formalization and safety improvements of the taxi industry beyond the Shayela Smart program. So we believe that this issue is important. But again, Chair, in describing some of the problems, the MEC, I think where one stands, if one were to read the statement about the impact of traffic congestion itself, it does not inspire investor confidence. And as a point was made to say, it affects productivity, and annually there's a loss of about 3 billion. So we hear that you talk about the city has this and that plan. But what is the provincial government doing? Somewhere in the report, you are talking about partnership between the department and Stellenbosch municipality to address the issue of congestion. If I guess if it's about traffic congestion in the area of Stellenbosch. But why here we don't get this sense of the deep involvement of the provincial government? Because I talk from experience that from home to town and back, a day I spend more than 4 hours. So it's not something which I Googled about. It's something which and there are many more who experiences this. So to what extent can this budget be also deployed to address this question? On 343, there's a talk about the current impact, or let me pose this question this way. What is the current impact of the rollout of the MyCity bus services on the subsidized services since its launch? This question is posed simply because a statement is made regarding the monitoring of phase 2A and its potential to affect the subsidized services. So, is there no existing study in this respect? Because if there is no sense about this, therefore, that will suggest that there's no integrated approach to addressing the issue of public transport in Cape Town and maybe in the Western Cape. I'm not sure, Chair, whether you want me to pause.
How many more? So that we can we can come back.
Okay, let me pause here. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Member Hera?
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to use the book and not the presentation. And I also have quite a lot of questions, so you can just tell me if you want me to pause as well. I'm going to start on page 348, and also it was raised in the Minister's opening remarks. Under Programme 2, the transport operations, the key areas of focus include efforts to formalize and improve the minibus taxis in the Western Cape. And the Minister says he's going to be addressing the transport conference on this tomorrow. And I think the question really is, what does the department mean by formalize? What difference between the minibus taxi operators who need to get a license, who need to be on a route, whose drivers need to have a PDP, what more does this department mean when it says the minibus taxi industry must be formalized? It's an issue I keep raising, but I don't see informality when the industry is so highly regulated that if they're off their route, their vehicle gets impounded. So can you please, once and for all, explain why you continue to demean the most important public transport modality by referring to them as informal and needing to be formalized? Then I want to also talk about traffic congestion on page 349. There's a project with the Stellenbosch municipality to support congestion relief. The city of Cape Town is in the top 10 most congested cities in the world. What is the department doing to work with the city of Cape Town to address traffic congestion? You've chosen Stellenbosch, which is great, but Cape Town is more congested than London and Los Angeles. And by the latest analysis, Cape Townians who use the road network spend nearly 100 hours in traffic. They lose 100 hours a year due to traffic congestion. Why are we working with Stellenbosch, and what the hell are we doing with Cape Town? On page 350, we talk about a failure to integrate and coordinate transport planning and spatial and land use planning as a part of the service delivery risks. Modal and sectoral planning elements will negatively impact on the viability of the mobility system. And I'll go back to the traffic congestion question. Yes, the failure to integrate is also something we discussed last week in the committee, but going further and integrating transport planning and spatial and land use planning, what, if anything, did this department do when the City of Cape Town tabled a municipal planning bylaw amendment to increase the densities and thus the trip generation likelihood, with this right to now build 8 to 12 flats on a single residential earth as long as you live on the Cape Flats in those areas demarcated on that map. So on the one hand, we have a traffic congestion problem. You're talking about the failure to integrate transport planning, spatial planning, and land use planning. But did the department comment on the fact that the municipal planning bylaw amendments is going to exacerbate the congestion problem in the City of Cape Town? Or are you just putting it here as a service delivery risk and doing nothing about it? You also on page 350 talk about fragmented decision-making in public transport, specifically per mode, makes it difficult to achieve interoperability. And this is the question that I raised last week in our committee meeting. And Ms. Ribbenaar said, we're not talking about devolution, we're talking about assignment. Nowhere in here is there any funding, is there any even mention that the department is working on the assignment of the contracted bus services to the City of Cape Town in order to defragment, for want of a better word, and to improve interoperability. A service delivery risk you identify, but you don't identify that one of the things that you can do as a department is to resolve this assignment of that function. Similarly, you refer to interoperability and inability to improve existing road freight and mitigate to rail challenges without addressing the tool that you have, which is assignment of the contracted bus services to the City of Cape Town. I'm going to move to page 361, which is where we start talking about land transport contracts gets 1.76 billion. And part of that is obviously from the PTOG, 1.332 billion. I'm just going to go over the page to 362, actually, that's where I wanted to be. So the PTOG, or the amount that's paid out to Golden Arrow by the looks of things, is 1.332 billion rand. And 280 million rand is paid out to municipalities for contracted services or public or transport operations. The question I have around the 1.332 billion that's paid to public corporations and private entities, and again, I'm assuming that this is all Golden Arrow, is how do we negotiate the rand per kilometer with Golden Arrow when their contract has never been put out on tender? I mean, it's been a contract that's been operating for, is it decades now, without ever being put out to tender. So how do we know that for 1.3 billion rand, we are getting the best available rand to kilometer rate if you don't actually put it out to a competitive process? And at what point does not putting it out to a competitive process become a contravention of the Public Finance Management Act and procurement rules? How does it just happen that this contract just gets extended year after year without any competitive process around the rand kilometer rate? Since you're not stopping me, Chair, I'm just going to go to my next question. I'm on page 374.
Sorry, Member Heron?
I've got 3 more questions.
Yes, I think we can come back so that they don't lose some of the questions. Can we allow them to respond and then we'll come back
Yes,
to you
of course,
and
thanks.
Member Heron? Minister?
Chair, thank you very much. And our one would want to appreciate the positive comments shared by Honorable Mayor in terms of the stride that has been made by the department in filling some of the senior management positions. and also the fact that we're able to get 3.52 billion in this next financial year. And let's deal. I'm just going to deal with the issue of the HOD, and I welcome any member of the committee who wants to undertake an investigation and probe why she would want to file for early retirement. But also I need to share with the committee that the process for people to go on early retirement is voluntary. You ask to go on early retirement, and then I as the minister would agree to your request, and then subsequent to that, the premier will also need to assent to that. But also what is important is that we also need to understand that mobility is not an easy department. It is the most complicated because it deals with issues that affects the majority of our people and the most vulnerable in our province. And unfortunately, it's part of us, and we are here, and we are going to shift the needle. And I can assure the committee that there was nothing sinister when the HOD asked for early retirement. And if the members need the correspondence between me and her, where the request came from her saying, I would want to apply and I would want you to second and support that particular application, we can do that. That we've got nothing to hide. Of course, it's unfortunate that someone would join a department and then within a period of 6 months, one would want to leave. And because I don't believe in conspiracy now. So if people want to follow it, then they're more than welcome to do that. But like I said, it's unfortunate. And for her to get sick as well, it happened after. It did not happen before the application or the request for the application for early retirement. So that's what I wanted to say to you, Chairperson. There's nothing to hide. She asked for it because it's a voluntary process, and she's not the only one. And there's another one that was going to go on retirement. When the window opened for voluntary exit, he also came to me saying that he would want to also be part and parcel of that project. And then it was also granted. And if I'm correct, there's about 38 in the whole of the government. Each and every department, there are people that have indicated that they would want to go on early retirement. And that's a project that is driven by national, and we have supported it, and we've said people who wants to go on early retirement, we're not going to stand in their way, and we are going to allow them. And of course, we're going to miss them because they've contributed to what we have achieved over the years. And it's sad for us to see them go, but if they feel that it's time for them to pass on the baton, and then we would gladly accept that. Thank you very much, Chair, and the rest will be dealt with by my acting HOD and the members in the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Chairperson, through you, if I may, just in terms of Member Nagenshu's question around, and we note that his views on the fact that the opening statements in terms of the objectives of the department is about a lot of problems without a solution. The budget documents must be read in collaboration with our annual performance plan, which stems from our 5-year strategic plan. And in there, you'll see a lot of reference to our provincial land transport framework, which really just captures the essence of what the mobility department's objectives and outcomes are. So that said, we do take note of the comment. The question around what are we doing around the operating subsidy framework as a province. Subsidies are generally administered from a national government perspective. And last year, the national minister issued a draft subsidy policy, to which this province has provided comments on. We're not quite sure where in the process that is. We haven't heard further views around whether the policy will be, taken further, but that's where we were hoping to provide feedback, is through the national policy. Then in terms of what is the department doing for the minibus taxi industry outside of the Shayla Smart program. Now, member Nagenshu, the Shayla Smart program really encapsulates what the fundamental core issues are as experienced, not only because it was co-created by the department, Sintaka, and the city of Cape Town. So everybody agreed to what the root issues are, and there's mitigations in the program from a training perspective, to an infrastructure perspective, etc., and business development. So we spend a lot of effort and energy in that, but the department will continue working with the minibus taxi industry through the Peace, or hopefully to expand the Peace Ambassadors program. The empowerment we're doing in terms of the bursaries offered to industry. There's safety training that we are also, that's in the pipeworks. The executive MBA program, we want to expand on that as well. Then we are, in terms of the congestion question, Member Nagenshu asked, what is it that we're doing? So we are not only working with Stellenbosch municipality, but we're also working with the city of Cape Town through the IPC subcommittees, but also the intermodal planning committee. Member Erin, you were aware of that particular committee that was initially established through law. It's not a prerequisite now, but we are still continuing in that. And this is where we deal with issues of congestion and integration. Member Nagenshu, your question around my city and the subsidized bus service. So we have established a committee with the National Department of Transport, the City of Cape Town, and ourselves to ensure that the integration of phase 2A with my city and the existing Golden Arrow subsidized routes, that there is no double dipping, if I can use that word. So we work on a plan where we excise routes of phase 2A, and that then is a portion to the city of Cape Town. But I do have to stress, and I'm going to speak to Member Erin's question because it is quite aligned with Member Nagenshu's question around fragmentation and how do we make sure we integrate. It's exactly through the STARS team that we do make sure that, because remember, Erin, the provincial minister does not have the authority to assign Golden Arrow bus services or PTOG. That's a national competency. So what we are asking national is permission to excise certain portions of PTOG, but even that would have to have relevance in the Division of Revenue Act. I don't have the authority as an accounting officer to take a national grant as a receiving department and take a portion of it and transfer it to the city of Cape Town. That has to happen through the national budgeting framework and through DORA. So whilst we are waiting for assignment, which has been applied for by the city, this is the way that we are ensuring integration by the two modes, being my city as well as Golden Arrow. I do recognize Member Erin's being aggrieved by us using the word formalization, and I do acknowledge that it is not intended to insult this industry that we are very respectful of. It is about formalizing into companies, and the companies so that we are able to contract, as government cannot contract with associations. So the formalization is from a business development company formalization perspective, and a lot of the industry members unfortunately are one owner. Some operators, and yes, we do regulate, Member Erin, and what we want to do is empower in a different ways, ready them. And that's why even with the COVID relief grant, we were one of the first provinces to be compliant in and have the necessary information at hand for operators to access that relief. We spoke about congestion in terms of member Aaron's also asked why we're working with Stellenbosch municipality and not the city of Cape Town. We do work with the city of Cape Town in terms of congestion relief strategies. We are also working with PRASA to look at a pilot on the Southern Line at 2 particular stations to do a park and ride facilities. Stellenbosch is also, from a congestion perspective, have seen an increase. So we thought it was important because there's a lot of work being done in terms of demand management by the city of Cape Town. So we hook into the processes of the city of Cape Town. In terms of the question around the densities and the city of Cape Town's bylaw and the increasing densities, remember here, the higher the density is, the more efficient a public transport service is. And so we have worked with our sister department, DEDB, within the city of Cape Town. We don't have the requisite densities for an efficient public transport. You need, on certain of the corridors, one might get to the right density, but largely mass movement. So if we use Metro Rail, and we've seen some really good green shoots coming from them. They hit their highest passenger numbers. I think it was in February of about just over 100,000 passengers. So we believe that corridors around rail, this is where you do need to up your densities. The integration of land use and transport planning, we work very closely with municipalities around the SDFs, IDPs, and its relation to the sector plan, which is the ITP. And that's where we work on integration. Your question around, your comment around fragmented decision making and PTNG and the money that we spend on the Golden Arrow bus services. Again, the legislation from the NLTTA to the now NLTTA spoke about this subsidized contracts that needs to be integrated into an integrated public transport network plan. So the city of Cape Town approved the IPTN, I think it was 2 years ago, and that integration is meant to happen through that process. As a provincial sphere of government, we were not allowed to materially change these contracts, remember, Aaron, because provinces are not seen as contracting authorities. And therefore, through our MINMEC processes, KOTO processes, we do engage national in terms of what is required from an assignment of PTOG, from integration in terms of the different modes of transport. MINMEC has resolved that cities with, I think it's over the MTF, need to make sure that sufficient progress is made so that these old order bus contracts can be integrated into, for sake of an example, I'm going to say my city. In Gauteng, it would be Rea Vaya, but it's about the integration of services so that these tenders that are put out after the first 12-year negotiated contract is dealt with in an integrated form. I do believe, Chairperson, I think I've covered all the questions in the first round. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I need to go back to Member Nancy. If there's no other question, and then to Member Harold, they'll be able to indicate if there's nothing said. So going back to Member Nancy and then Member Harold.
No, thank you very much, Chair. In the interest of time, I'm not going to debate some of the issues raised, but the MEC has to be aware that we're deeply concerned about what can be described as looming leadership instability. And the announcement you just made has the potential to undermine even the positive announcement you earlier made about the appointment. The appointment of the CFO and other officials. Chair, on this second round, I wanted to deal with the following questions. Firstly, on the job seekers voucher, an initiative which, of course, all of us has been appreciating, but of course, calling for its expansion and also to continue monitoring, the extent with which it covers our people. One issue which one would like to raise relate to whether this job seekers voucher will not be deployed to the inter-town rural transport solutions. The areas as identified, your TWK, your Central Caro, for instance. That's the first thing. The second thing is also to get a sense in respect to the concentration of those who are benefiting from this. A number is not enough, or a percentage is not enough. But what is important is to appreciate the concentration of those who are aware and those who are benefiting from this. So, on the Go George, one wants to pose the following questions. One, because a Go George talk should also talk to the question of the safety of the bus drivers and the safety of the commuters. To what extent, one, is the George municipality involved and playing an active role in this program? And two, to what extent is the safety of commuters and bus drivers guaranteed in some parts of George? And finally, on this question, at the recent oversight in George, you were there. Members of the public who just pitched up, in your presence, raised a critical issue, and they said, the absence of dedicated lane in Timberlake and properly built bus stops contribute to traffic congestion. In particular, as you get in Timberlake, I forgot the name of the street. So, in this, has this consent been accommodated here? On the rail, the report make one sentence that the department is going to support PRASA on its effort to revive, right? But in the best interest of those who elected us, what do you mean by this? Because it is important to use this to account and say, this is what we are committing. So this is unclear. On the minibus taxi industry, Member Heron raised this matter, of which we support. We have been raising this matter, of which we support him. Though the acting also did calling to clarify this. The conversation, the talk about formalization, and maybe there is a need, Member Heron, for a proper debate about what do you mean by formalization of the taxi, of the minibus taxi industry. But the issue which I want to raise today relate to the call as the ANC have been making that municipalities and in particular the city of Cape Town should take over the management of taxi ranks and improve safety infrastructure. What is your take on this particular question? I think I've covered the issue, and Member Aaron also dealt with this issue of congestion alleviation in Stellenbosch. And let's talk about the metro. Both of us spoke on this particular issue. on the inter-town rural transport solutions. Of course, we support the inter-town rural transport solutions, the central car. And can the department conduct a study also to ensure that this covers Hermanus, it covers Saldanha and Mamaspear? Why these three are added? It is because of their active economic activities. And another issue which I think is important, there is a talk about the recent amendment to legislation governing the provincial regulatory entity, and transport administration and licensing. And that was told it requires the department to perform new functions. Now, and there's a call for an urgent structural review. Now, can this request, and it is argued that for this request, can this request be properly articulated for us and our people to understand it properly? And also, a request is made that once that is underway, provision must be made for a contract appointments additional to the establishment in the interim to enable the department to execute its legal mandate. But details are not provided here. Can the department clarify this important statement? And the second last issue relates to transport regulations. You know, we are told that there's going to be an assessment has to commence to review legislation with the aim of broadening the grounds for the impoundment of vehicles in order to improve road safety. Now, impoundment. Does this suggest that in this department, impoundment has become a key performance area? One thought that it would seek to address many issues which are responsible for what impoundment is used to respond to. For instance, and the issue which talked to the issue of planning, was the report says the department therefore works in close collaboration with planning authorities, municipalities, to regularly review integrated transport plans to achieve its objectives. Now, one thought that as we have been arguing, that this would consider residential and industrial development or future developments, right? So that when this is integrated there, that there is no question about impoundment because there is a response existing. And the issue of licensing.
The last one?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm saying that the last question.
On the issue of licensing, you know, the testing license environment. And we are told that, of course, issues are raised. But what one is interested is on the participation of the private sector in the licensing space. What does that mean, Chair? Let me end there for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Member Hiram.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just, I had 2 or 3 questions, but the HOD's, acting HOD's reply just prompted me to, with 1 or 2 follow-ups, and I'll do them now. I mean, first of all, my question around the assignment is, I understand that the provincial government cannot assign the contracting authority function to the City of Cape Town. My point is, the province is raising as a risk the inability to integrate and to achieve interoperability. But nowhere in this document does it address what the solution is, or one of the solutions, which is to resolve this long question of assignment. So the HOD says that the City of Cape Town has applied for the assignment of the function. Are we talking about the 2014-2015 application? Is that the application we're talking about that is still sitting with the national government? Because that application went through every single process, including the Fiscal and Financial Commission, which all recommended the assignment of the function. And nowhere in this document, or any document produced by the provincial government, is the assignment addressed. If we're still talking about the 2014 or 2015 application, then what has been happening over the 12 years? And is integration really something that worries this department, or do we just put it in the document because that's the right thing to put in a mobility department's document? I don't understand how this assignment function is not even mentioned in the document. On the question of the densities, I assume that the HOD understands the concept of trip generation. And to say that higher densities is better for the efficiency of public transport, that's a generalized statement which applies in most cities. But does it really apply in Cape Town when the city's planning bylaw amendments proposes to increase densities in Khayelitsha? I'm now looking at a population density map. Khayelitsha has amongst the highest population density, residential density in the city. Does it make sense to increase the residential densities in Khayelitsha, in Wallace Dean, the second highest, in Nyanga, in Lwandle and Nomzamo, in Hanover Park, in Imizamietu, in Masiphumelele? Those are all trip generation points of origin. How can the argument be that it's the increasing densities in those places makes sense and makes our city more efficient? It simply cannot be true. Making Khayelitsha more dense, Wallace Dean, how do people from Wallace Dean get to where the jobs are? How do people from Lwandle and Nomzamo get to where the jobs are? Imizamietu, the most densely populated informal settlement perhaps that I've ever walked through. Masiphumelele, you can hardly move. How can it be? How can the HOD say that makes public transport more efficient? I really don't understand that answer. I want to ask one or two more questions about the allocation of funding on page 377. There's 10 million rand allocated to the City of Cape Town under table A3. Is that for the MyCity bus? What service is that for? And why is it almost 1/3 what was the revised estimate for 2025-2026, and almost half of what the main appropriation was for the 2025-2026 financial year? Then if we go to the George allocation, it's 270 million rand. It is 22 million rand less than what was the revised estimate from 2025-26. It is almost 30 million rand less than 2024-25. So as I understood it, the George service was expanding. So how is the amount that we're allocating to George reducing? And what is the source of the income? Is it the provincial equitable share? Is it a reallocation of the PTOG? Or is it from the Provincial Revenue Fund? And then finally on page 377, I see we again allocating 10 million rand for the dial-a-ride, I assume, persons with disabilities, 10 million rand to the City of Cape Town, when we know that in the last financial year, we had to go and allocate another 10 million rand because the City of Cape Town was cutting back on services. So how is this 10 million rand enough? Or has the City of Cape Town allocated more funding to keep the service level at the level that it was prior to threatening to cut the service? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister HOD.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, we are going to share the responses. Firstly, I agree with my honorable colleague, Obabu Benson, in terms of the job seeker voucher. We really need to come to a level where we say more about it instead of us just sharing the numbers, how many people have actually registered. We need to follow, and see whether the contribution that we have made in terms of the job seekers voucher has actually been able to add to people's livelihood and able to fend for their families and able to start. I know there's one success story about an individual that benefited and who got a job and was able also to utilize the remainder of the trips to get to work. And there is more of such that we would really want to brag about. And from me personally, that is one of the programs that I wouldn't want to die within the space of mobility, because we all know that majority of our people don't have jobs, and we, especially young and in areas that are far away from where people can actually get jobs. So for us as mobility, if we can enable the majority of people to be able to go to these places, then definitely that is something that we are going to be pushing, making sure that we are able to go to get to places. And I think that's what we are trying to do with Go George, trying to see what are the opportunities for us to introduce a job seekers voucher there. And also, I welcome, the conversation in terms of rural areas, transport solution. What are the benefits? What are the opportunities for us also to be able to give that? The fact that we're able to pilot this particular service in non-metro areas was because of the urge and the urgency of understanding the plight of people in rural areas, out of the metro. And that's why we said we need to pilot Theewaterskloof in the Overberg, and we need to go to pilot Central Karoo, which is Beaufort West and Maritzburg and Nelspruit. And the successes will actually determine us stretching over to other areas where we can actually bring this particular service. In terms of PRASA, we just had a meeting with PRASA last week, specifically with the regional manager and his whole team, specifically to say we need to, fasten and we need to elevate, or we need to make sure that we sign this MOU between us and PRASA, specifically so that people can actually know what is it that we are talking about when we say we support the initiative that is done by PRASA. There will be collaboration between us and PRASA going forward. And one of the initiatives that the acting HOD spoke about was about the Southern Line. What are the opportunities for us to have park and rides so that people are able to park their bicycles and their cars and they can get into the train? And also we are talking about looking at there's always been talk about the express line, and I think Kuku knows about that particular service. And we're also saying that when can we bring back that particular service again? That express where you can actually get into it, because congestion is an issue that keeps us awake on a daily basis. And all the initiatives and us actually partnering, supporting all the initiatives from the side of PRASA is exactly to make sure that you are able to get more and more people to get into public transport. And also, we also want people to be able to use the other modes of public transport. Hence, we need to deal with the issue of safety in public transport. What is the incentive for an individual to say, I am willing to leave my car at home and get into any mode of public transport, either a bus or a train or a minibus taxi? Once you are able to deal with the elephant in the house, in the room in terms of safety, we really need to do that. And those are the kind of initiatives that we'll be undertaking specifically in this particular year, where we're not going to compromise. Because we know where we want to go, we want more and more people to use public transport. But the fact that people still feel that it's unsafe, we have to look at ways and means of making sure that we are able to bring in those measures so that people are able to use public transport so that they feel they are safe. And I don't want to go much, and I would say I agree. Whenever we talk about formalization of the minibus taxi industry, and I think that's the first thing I said to the colleagues. You need to tell me, or you need to simplify, what is it that you speak about when you talk about formalization about the minibus taxi industry? Because I can tell you now, we can ask the same question in the room and we'll find different answers. And it's no coincidence that the theme, when it comes to public transport tomorrow, it says the taxi industry reform agenda. That is the theme where experts will have to unpack it, simplify it, and give their understanding. And it deals with the issue of funding. And then it deals with the issue of subsidization. And then it also deals with the issue of formalization. The fact that we are going to be having this particular engagement and conversation tomorrow tells you that there is still an issue about how people view formalization. So tomorrow when we have this conversation and the panel of experts are going to delve into it, try to unpack it, we will be able to say, okay, these are the recommendations from the conference. This is how we are going to formalize. And this is how we are going to deal with the issue of subsidy. And this is how we are going to deal with funding. And also in terms of the infrastructure. What we have picked up is that we need also to come to a level where we talk about the infrastructure of our taxi ranks. I can say it in front of everyone unapologetically. Some of our taxi rank does not bring the dignity of the majority of the people that are using it. I was myself within a week to Site C, where I had to stand in a long queue, and I just asked the same question. If a child that has to go to school, having to queue for a minibus taxi in the rain, in the wind, there is no protection. We need to deal with that. And those are the kind of things that we are currently dealing with it, where we are going to say from the side of mobility, how does one define a taxi rank? What is an acceptable taxi rank within our space? But also understanding our mandate as mobility, when it comes to taxi rank, we are not responsible for these facilities. Those facilities belong to our different municipalities. So it is important that we engage our municipalities and we agree on a particular model for taxi ranks in our province. Once we are able to agree, and then we can look in terms of how does one fund it so that we are able to bring back the dignity of people that are using the majority of our taxi ranks. So the commitment from the side of mobility, it's undeniable, it's non-negotiable, can never be, taken as if we are. We need to work with the industry, and the industry need to work with us. But when I say that, if the industry is not helping me get to what I want to achieve in terms of making sure that the majority of people in our province are able to use any mode of public transport, then I'm not going to be a nice person. I will deal with it with people in any mode of public transport that is compromising the safety of the residents of this province. But the commitment from our side has always been there. We have shown commitment more than once to any mode of transport in the public transport sector that we really want to work with the industry. Of course, there are concerns, and we're not going to shy away. People are still getting shot. People are still, losing their lives. Families, innocent people, like just recently what has happened in our province. But we are not going to shy away from that. It has been part of the industry for many years. Now it's us as a department to say, what is it that we're going to do differently so that we are able to say it was this, but it's no longer this way. Thank you very much, Chairperson and the honorable members.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Through you, Ministers touched on quite a bit of the responses in terms of expansion of the Intertown Rural Services or program, as well as the job seeker travel voucher outside of the metro. In terms of the PRE and the new functions, I'm going to give my colleague Mark Skricker an opportunity just to speak to the detail of that. Then in terms of Member Nagenshu's question around transport regulations and the issue around reviewing legislation, specifically around impoundments. So the reason we're doing that is just in terms of the fatality stats, we're looking to see if our impoundment legislation, but also our operating license conditions, the law in its entirety, if there's any areas, so we're going through the regulatory impact assessments. I do not want to preempt the outcome of that process around what parts of legislation must be strengthened or not. Member Nagenshu, in terms of your question around participation of the private sector in operating licenses, I'm not aware of any plans of that. I'm not sure if there's a reference in the budget book that you could potentially show, just highlight for us. And then in terms of Go George, around safety of bus drivers and to what extent is George Municipality playing a role. So George Municipality, as most local authorities, have capacity challenges, member, but they do participate on a monthly basis. We have a management committee, and it is made up of 3 members of province, 3 members of the municipality. all invoicing plans, decisions have to go through that management committee. So their participation in the current operations, future planning happens through this management committee. They are expanding their capacity. They've just finalized the organizational design process, and hopefully through that they will be adding capacity. You've asked around to what extent we can give assurance to the drivers and passengers around safety. Remember, the municipality of George has tabled a safety plan that is being engaged on the various platforms. So we are, garnering comment on that, but I don't know if anybody would give anybody the assurance of their safety. We put a lot of emphasis on creating a safe environment for our commuters. We do it in terms of our infrastructure, the way vehicles are maintained, our operational deployment, but I wouldn't want to use the word assurance if member can understand why we wouldn't want to do that. Then in terms of dedicated lanes and your visit and your oversight visit to George, um, it, it was a little difficult to showcase what we're envisioning as the after when it comes to the upgrades that we're doing in Tembeletu. But what I can tell you is that there won't be any dedicated lanes. One requires a certain mass in terms of movement of people to justify dedicated lanes like we do have the red roads here in the city of Cape Town. We don't move that kind of numbers, member, and the infrastructure costs related to that is quite heavy. We also don't really use indented bays where buses pull to the side because it's actually a safety risk when they have to come back and integrate with transport. So our view is our policy is public transport first. So the bus stands in lane. The normal members of or private vehicles need to wait because public transport must be given that priority. We do that through signalization. So yes, dedicated lanes it's a good thing when you have the kind of movements like in metros. You've asked, we know real mention is made of in terms of rail. Minister has alluded to the fact that we just had a full 5-hour workshop with PRASA and the entire executive team on Friday with ministers' involvement, speaking about the areas of concern and where we can provide the necessary support from a signaling perspective to vegetation clearing, to infrastructure development, to ticketing, to EPWP applications, BFI applications. So we are working through systematically the areas that we can collaborate with PRASA. Now, it's a bit premature to put it into the books when we haven't yet signed the MOU. So we won't be expending any money if we don't have that agreement in place. And that's the work we're doing with Metrorail right now. Then in terms of Member Heron's question around assignment, if the 2014-15 application was the last, and if that's what I'm referring to, that was the last formal application I'm aware of, Member Heron. What we've been doing, however, is we have our bilaterals, as you're aware, with the national government, the city of Cape Town, and there's times when the province participates in that bilateral for specific areas or gender points, shall we say, and the integration of Golden Arrow with my city is one of the particular times when we meet. And I think the approach the city is adopting around assignment is really through dialogue, through the bilaterals, through IPC, because the national government's also a member, and it's not necessarily through a renewed application, but it's through this kind of engagement in these intergovernmental committees. So what have we been doing for the last couple of years? It's the dialogue and the expectation at national government of seeing an integrated public transport network that does all of this. So this has been happening over the last 3 to 4 years very specifically, and it has to be assigned or aligned to the My City rollouts, Member Heron. Then in terms of densities, you are absolutely correct. It was a generalized statement around densities, increasing densities makes public transport more efficient. That is generalized. In terms of the detail around Khayelitsha, Wallerstein, the Kraaifontein, some other northern suburbs, areas that you also mentioned, Member Heron, I think the idea around the live work play, it's also to bring opportunities into communities, and it's to lessen the need to move out of your point of origin. So that's also an area that's been looked at. But I had no other way of explaining the higher densities, but to give a generalized statement. Unless if we speak about Khayelitsha, it's about the mass movement through the BRT, the N2 express service that was introduced as a result of the higher densities in Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain specifically, which leads me to another question that I've just realized that Member Nagenshu asked around job seeker travel voucher, and where is it that most people are utilizing the service? It's in the Metro Southeast, Member, so it's Khayelitsha, it's Mitchell's Plain, it's Nyanga, and Bellville. That is where most of the yeah, the beneficiaries are associated. I would go as far as saying 80%, Member Nagenshu. Then in terms of the 10 million rand question on table A3, Member Heron, that is dial-a-ride. That's the dial-a-ride service and our allocation. Our allocation has been static for a number of years in terms of dial-a-ride. It's our in principle support to universal accessibility. Last year, through the adjustments, we have doubled it and increased it to 20 million. We've gone back to the baseline allocation of 10 million. It's a City of Cape Town contracted service, sorry, as you are aware, and we are in engagements with the city as to how this is going to become sustainable and integrated into your normal public transport service. What is the long-term plan? What is the short term in terms of the contract, the existing contract? So because we are only at the start, not yet at the start of our new financial year, with the budget speech was only last week, Thursday, I think. So we're only allowed to engage on the detail after the budget speech. So now we will speak to the City of Cape Town after the parliamentary process is also finalized. In terms of the George allocation, the 270, yes, it does decrease. We have an agreement with our provincial treasury because it's from the equitable share that we are going to bring them into our conference and engage on a monthly basis so that we increase the baseline appropriately once and for all, and that we don't go through adjustments and get the extra allocation. So 300 million rand is generally where we would need to be for the service as it exists now. And we're going to take provincial treasury through the model so that in the 27-28 MTF, we fix the baseline and don't pay for the Go George bus services via an adjustment process, even though, you know, if there's an increase in the year, obviously we would use the adjustments for that. Can I then hand over to Mark Skricker through you, Chairperson, and potentially Randall Barrero as well around the PRE additional functions as well as transport admin and licensing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, thank you, HOD. Thanks, Chairperson. Chair, may I go ahead?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so Chair, I'm in a remote area, so if the reception is a bit bad, I do apologize. But they have amended sections
Can hear you.
23 and 24 of the NLTA. So basically, section 23 deals with the structure of the PRE. So there's now specific guidelines. Remember, the current PRE officials are all permanent, officials of the department, appointed by virtue of their knowledge in public transport and related areas. So they're going back to the old model in terms of which the old provincial operating license boards were appointed. So it's statutory appointments. It's not members of the department. And there are specific requirements, Chair, in terms of the positions. Collectively, the experience of all the members must cover certain areas. It includes the law, transport planning, transport economics, vehicle standards, actuarial science, and so on. So these specific criteria now set out in the amended section 24 for PRE board members. And what we've done, Chair, we've actually written to national government to ask for an exemption of a year. I think they've granted a period of 1 year for us to complete that restructuring exercise. And we are now in discussions with OD to restructure the current PRE. In terms of the functions, Chair, we've always been responsible for the monitoring and oversight of public transport in the province. So as part of that, we capacitate municipalities, we train law enforcement officials on how to interpret operating licenses. And obviously we educate the industry also on the legal requirements. Then we have to receive and decide on operating license applications in terms of intra-provincial transport, so within the boundaries of the province, that we're doing. Currently, National has not taken over the function of inter-provincial transport, so we are still performing the functions of the NPTR, or the National Public Transport Regulator, insofar as inter-provincial transport services are concerned, and until they are ready to take over those functions. We've also written to National to assist with the regulation of tourist transport services, and we've sent through an amended Section 26 agreement that allows the PRE to play a greater role, because we know there's issues with tourist transport in terms of delays and so on. So we've made that offer to national government. In terms of the Amendment Act, Chair, there's now 3 additional functions. The one is to record information on associations and members and non-members operating in the area. And if I can give a little bit of background, so in 2009, when the NLTA was promulgated, they took the registration function out of the NLTA. So I think the intention at that time was to convert all the associations to companies that will contract with government, but that didn't quite materialize. So the National Department has put registration back into the NLTA. And of course, we've always been doing registration because they allowed provinces to still register in terms of provincial laws. So we've used a provincial law to register, and what's in the NLTA now is actually a watered down version of what we are currently doing. So we're doing a lot more in terms of a registration. The only thing that I need to point out, Chair, is that there's now provision for the registration of other modes as well. So it's not only minibus taxis, they allow us to record information on other modal associations. So that's one of the additional functions. And then the second additional function, Chair, is that we need to deal with complaints, including complaints from the general public, and we need to follow through with appropriate actions. And then the last one is that we need to advise the MEC on the treatment of passengers, especially targeted categories of persons that include learners and people with disabilities and so on. So those are the additional functions. And I think, has been mentioned, earlier on in the presentation, funding has been set aside for a post additional to the establishment to deal with these additional functions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think that covers all the questions in the last round.
Yeah. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, everyone. Is there any other question, but now from the other members? Okay, there's no hand. Is there any member of the public that is in, I'm not sure, Ms. Adams, did you see any? Is there anyone who indicated is around?
No, Chair, don't see any hands from any members of the public.
Okay, there are no members of the public. I think, Minister and the department, we have exhausted. I do know that I'm aware that there could be as many questions that needs to that probably the members also have in mind. But looking at the time, I think we've done quite well in terms of exhausting the questions. In that case, I want to thank again you, Minister, and the department for actually allowing us to have this opportunity with you. After this, we are going to ask the members to express themselves on the consideration of the adoption of the report. Therefore, we are excusing the department. But yeah, we're excusing the department so that the members can deliberate in their hand.
Chair,
I'm listening.
I face network connectivity.
Now they've answered all the
No, I'm
questions.
saying I faced network. Is it okay?
Yeah, no, they answered everything.
I have one more question though. Okay.
But the issue is about probably they might have covered your question that you want to ask at the time that you lost the connectivity.
Okay. No, it had to do with the 3% license fee increase. But it's fine. It's fine, Chair. It's fine, Chair.
Thank you very much. You are excused, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. But before we excuse ourselves, I would just want to thank the committee and under your leadership for the questions. And yeah, we are in sync in terms of the concerns that we have in terms of making sure that we are able to move people in our province with less constraints, and especially the goods and services. But we have to contribute to growing the economy so that ultimately people are able to get those jobs. And I also want to thank the department for the work that they have been doing for the last few years under the leadership of the HOD and the current acting HOD. And we are committed to making sure that we work with the committee and all the questions that the committee poses to us, we take it and with grace, and we take it the way we're supposed to take it, so that when we go back to the drawing board, we are able, when we meet again, to say we've actually made some progress in terms of how we are going to change. Because the majority of this province is highly dependent on an efficient and a mobility that works, so that they are able to get to places with less stress. And now we really worried about what we see in the minibus taxi industry, where there's an escalation of people losing their lives. And we are not taking any reckless decisions. We are consulting internally. We are using our mediators to speak to the industry and affected associations, so that we are able to get to the bottom of what is currently taking place. So from our side, and the members as well that I know, you also know some of the players within the industry. If we have an opportunity to engage with them to help us as a department, so that we are able to stop what is currently taking place in our province, and so that we are able to have an industry that is violence-free and there is less killings. With those few words, thank you very much, Chairperson and the honorable members.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. All the best for the conference. Members, this is an opportunity to deliberate on the vote, whether you support or do not support.
Yeah.
Support. Are you supporting?
No.
Okay, the hand is for not supporting. Can we start with the support first? Support. You have Ms. Adams? Have you recorded?
Yes, Chair, I have the support.
Okay. And then can lower the hands. Member Masipa, you can lower. Thank you. Member Ngensu, you wanted to say something?
Yes, given the gaps and issues raised in the report on behalf of the ANC, we don't support. Thanks.
Thank you. We have recorded Ms. Adams.
Yes, Chair, recorded.
That's as far as we have the members. They've expressed their views. We'll be able to flight it. Thank you. Report Understanding Committee on Mobility on Vote 8 Western Cape Mobility Department and the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill 2026 dated 16 March as follows. The Standing Committee on Mobility, having considered the subject of Vote 8 Western Cape Mobility in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill, referred to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with the Standing Rule number 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view. We will not support the vote. That's the report. Adoption. Can't see the hand. The adoption of this report. Member Masipa, thank you.
I move
And
that
member,
we.
and member Vessels, yeah. Thank you very much. Member Van Beek, were you adopting or is there a hand for the question? Thank you. The first part, we are done with it. Is there any other item? Do we start with the minutes or do we start with the track?
Apologies, Chair. I think if the members have resolutions, they can do that now, and then we can move to the adoption of the documents, if that's okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. For resolutions. I think everyone is I mustn't say everyone. I must say that the two members who were asking the questions, they've left. There's something wrong with the network. I'm not sure whether it's because of the wind. Those are also people struggling, so they are not here. Is there any resolution? Okay, for me, it's about the issue of the impounding, because the department indicated as part of the transport regulation programming that they will introduce, intending to introduce a bill in regard to expand the vehicle impounding. For me, I would just wanted not only the clarity, but the background on what basis, because they say they want to broaden that. So I'm interested in terms of they could be able to provide more background in regard to that. They will even up to that they want to broaden the vehicle impoundments. And yeah. And then member Ngensu spoke about the issue related to the HOD, but I don't think I mustn't think on his behalf, but for me, it's about the in terms of having a time frame in terms of getting another HOD, because the posts that they indicated that they've just filled, these are the posts that are still coming from last year. It took longer to fill such posts, senior posts, and for how long they do intend to fill this one for the HOD. Because last time, as we are aware, when they were acting, when the HOD left, it took longer for them to have this one now who just left, even to be full, just to have an indication of the time frame for the filling of the post of the HOD. Now that we just hear that the HOD now has taken earlier time. For me, that's all. If there's nothing, we can go ahead to the next point. I'm going to slide the tracking. Oh, these are the minutes. This meeting is it was about the third quarter report and the resolutions. If you could scroll down, right. Scroll down. What I know, it's where there was a whole debate about the scholar transport. There was also about scholar transport. Adoption proposal. Thanks, Member Van Beek.
Oh, wait, sorry, apologies, member. I am flagging the wrong minutes. We've already adopted these minutes. My apologies. Let me share the correct one, please.
No, that's why I saw the 5th of December, whatever it was. That's why I'm highlighting to you that I know that part of the resolutions, it was about the scholar transport. It was the first one. Because I know that you have already sent, so the members have already read. Yes. So it was the scholar transport, it was the main thing I recall that there was a kind of more of a discussion. So we already have Member Van Veek adopted the seconder. Member Vessels, thank you. And then the tracking. This one, it was ending by the 11th of March with a quarterly report. Third quarter reports and started from, let's go up. The first line. Okay. Anyway, the members have received the document. If is there any input, if there is no input, can we have the proposer and the seconder for this, to adopt this? Thank you, Member Van Veek and Member Vessels. We've got that in items. Got it.
I've got it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other matter? Because we had 3 for today. Is there any other?
Those were all the administrative matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members, for staying until the last. Thank you for the time. Thank you very much. All the best. And the network is keep on running on and off. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you, Ms. Adams and the IT team. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.